Sveiki and welcome back to your irregular Latvian lesson. Latvia is a country where many things plaukst un zeļ. They bloom and blossom. Things like what? Oh, you know, meži, forests, pļavas, fields and vardarbība pret sievietēm. Violence against women. Let's go. In our national anthem, we have a line, Kur Latviju meitas zied, where the Latvian daughters blossom. On one among the other posters held in the protest Nāves iemesls sieviete, cause of death, a woman, this line was completed with the words Ne Latvijā. It is not in Latvia that Latvian daughters blossom. Why? Well, what sparked this protest in front of the building of the Latvian parliament? In mid-April, a woman was murdered in Jēkabpils in front of her mother and child by her ex-partner who had been stalking her for years. Despite numerous reports to the police from the victim, her family and even co-workers whom he threatened and called the victim sometimes 1,000 times a day, her co-workers telling them that he's watching their children and threatening to kill them, and despite numerous temporary protection against violence orders, or in other words, temporary restraining orders that had been issued, the victim, she's dead. Stabbed in plain daylight on a secluded country road that she was returning home on from the cemetery, where the murderer stopped her car by crashing it with his and murdered her. In the aftermath of the event, the police, the prosecutors and the courts all said that they did everything that was in their competence to protect this woman. So now, even the president of Latvia is starting to doubt the competence of Latvia to protect its women, admitting that the fault of this murder lies with the state, and it's time to review Latvia's law. Since the murder, representatives of Latvia's judicial structures participated in a number of TV talk panels. There are internal investigations going on into the working methods of the police and the prosecutor's office on the local level, but again and again the point was raised that the law is too limiting on what can be done in such situations. The aspect that was highlighted in particular was that the maximum penalty for breaking the temporary restraining order and for stalking is 3 months imprisonment, while for minor shoplifting it goes up to 1 year. But there's more. For insignificant bodily harm, one that does not result in permanent damage, i.e. is detectable for up to 3 weeks, so your traditional domestic violence like a bruise or a small cut, it is not even the criminal code that is applied, but the administrative one, with a maximum penalty of 500 euros, or 700 if the victim is a spouse or a relative. Furthermore, as Marta, one of the leading women's NGOs in Latvia, pointed out, it is completely backwards to apply this administrative measure in cases of domestic violence, because the fine is just an added burden to the family's budget, which in the long term might simply stop wives from reporting the violence at all. And plus, if the man is broke or unemployed, there's literally no way to make him pay, rendering this measure completely useless. And finally, as I also learned recently due to a personal experience in the matter, sexual harassment is not illegal at all in Latvia. There is literally no law that could protect you from degrading sexual comments or even being groped in the public transport, on the street, anywhere. There is nothing. While in Estonia and Lithuania sexual harassment is clearly defined in the criminal code, right next to the penalty that can be given for engaging in it, in Latvia the closest thing we have is a reference to sexual actions in the labor law. So, if you get harassed outside of the workplace, well, that's just tough luck. You might think, Why is Latvia behind on this legislation? As was stated by the chief of the State Police Sexual Crimes Department in 2017 in an interview to a Latvian newspaper, it's simply not a big problem in Latvia. We don't need a law just because our neighbors have it. I paraphrase him slightly. Of course, if there is no law, there is no problem, right? Which brings me to what I think is one of the roots of the problem of violence in Latvia. The questions surrounding Jēkabpils now are not only could they do more, but did they want to do more to protect this woman? Because it's a bit hard to explain the perceived negligence of the judicial structures who failed to make the connection between these 19 criminal proceedings against the murderer. The argument is that if they had just taken the case a bit more seriously, the woman would still be alive because the murderer would be in prison to this day, serving consecutive sentences for all his crimes. Plus, this was not the first woman he harassed. There is another one living abroad who moved there 12 years ago because he harassed her. But nobody had ever heard of him before in the local police and prosecutor's office. What if only that was the only reason? In one of the TV panels, the victim's lawyer recounted an episode where she went to the prosecutor in charge of her case and said this to him: "Prosecutor, I ask you, please, this is a very serious case. I am there every day. I see this woman. I see the animalistic fear that she has developed. Please help us." To which he replied, "Ah, šādi mīlnieki jau tikai runā. Viņi jau neko nedara." Such lover boys only talk. They never really do anything. What does it tell you that a prosecutor and the police representative can openly say such things in Latvia? It means that the society not only does not care about violence against women, but it laughs at it. I mean, let's take a look at our language for a second. There are so many expressions that we use every day that, in my opinion, minimize the violence and legitimize toxic values. For example, in situations where we should be talking about seksuālā uzmākšanās, sexual harassment, which doesn't exist in Latvia, or at least where there's unwanted sexual touching, you might hear someone say apčamdīt krūtis or apčamdīt dibenu, which is to touch someone's breasts or behind, but the verb čamdīt, unlike grābstīt, which is closer to grope, gives the action an infantile and playful tone. Tikai apčamdīja. Viņš jau tikai apčamdīja. He just snuck a little feel just to see how it feels. I mean, it was harmless fun, right? Or uzšaut pa dibenu. From shout to shoot, uzšaut pa dibenu means to slap someone's behind, to hit it quickly with your palm, evoking a bit of pain or not. Doesn't matter. The infantile nature of this expression evokes something so innocent as slapping a child's butt when they have been naughty. Which, by the way, is another thing Latvia should stop doing, normalizing hitting children. It is not normal in the majority of civilized countries. Just some Latvians think that it is their parental right to physically discipline their children. Because we teach our children violence by both subjecting them to it at home and also by teaching them that it's normal for little boys to show attraction to little girls by raustītais bizēm, by pulling them by their pigtails or their braids and hurting them a little in other ways. After all, kas mīlējas, tas ķīvējas. Those who love each other fight each other, is what we say about little children hurting each other and adults knocking each other out. A phrase that we have in common with Russian, ja sit, tad mīl. If he hits you, he loves you. And I really wish I could say that nobody in Latvia believes that. But at the same time, we teach kids that if somebody gives you too hard of a time, just iedot pa purnu. Give them something in the muzzle. The worst thing a husband can be is būt zem sievas tupeles, to be under the shoe of his wife, which is an expression that emasculates men who listen to their wives and take their requests seriously. If you cannot show your woman or any aggressor their place, then you are simply a mīkstais, the soft one, because the way that a man should deal with any problem, even abuse, is to toughen up and silence. Of course, it is discouraging to speak out about abuse if you think that the authorities are not going to believe you or just not care. But it's almost impossible if neither would your family. I want to stress that I don't think violence is a problem of men in Latvia. It is a problem of all of us, women too. It is women that keep passing on these toxic values to their children, to boys, that they need to be strong and resilient and to make sure that they're respected and to be able to defend themselves physically, and to girls that they are failed as women if they don't have children and the family and don't get married, that the worst thing they can be is to be an old maid, and that if anything ever happens in their family, it's shameful for others to know, so they have to never tell anyone about it. Stay silent and love their husbands, kāds nu ir, just as they are. And so there's silence and victim blaming. Recently, a documentary was released called Ilģu ciema māsas, Sisters in Longing, in which women in prison were interviewed, and it turned out many of them were there because they had killed or badly hurt their abusers. It was mind-blowing to hear accounts of a woman who said that when she was raped as a little girl by her brothers, her mother bought her cookies and told her not to tell anyone. It was mind-blowing to hear that some of the women are happy to be in prison because they know they would get murdered the second they get out. And it's just as mind-blowing to read comments on the internet next to articles about violence against women or men, where the comments say, well, look at him, her. She deserves it. Look at how she dresses. Look at how she acts. Mind-blowing. On the flip side, it's not just women who suffer from violence in Latvia. More women, yes, about 25% of women in Latvia have suffered from violence, but men do too, about 20%. And they face the same, if not more dire obstacles if they want to do anything about it. Because people believe a man would be happy if he were sexually harassed by a woman, even raped by a woman, if it is at all possible. And they also believe that a man, by default, knows how and is willing to protect himself physically. And if he can't, well, then that's his own fault. So what do we do? How do we even begin healing the violence in Latvia? Well, if only there was some international instrument aimed at reducing violence in the family. Oh wait, there is. It's called the Istanbul Convention. I know that these problems are not unique to Latvia. Latvia is also not the only country that has not ratified this convention by the Council of Europe aimed at protecting women from violence and reducing violence in families. But it is just so frustrating to see that days after this horrific murder that shook the whole country, Latvian parliament said again, no, we're not gonna ratify the Istanbul Convention, we don't need it. We don't need this framework that would oblige the government to change its laws to actually protect people, and that would oblige the government to have monitoring bodies and to invest in crisis centers and in educating the society on violence and its many different faces, and to teach them about non-violent conflict resolution. But nope, no thank you, we don't want it here. And why? To preserve Latvianness. The reasons they don't want to ratify it have been the same for years, and I'll go into more detail about it on my Patreon, but even though they are completely arbitrary, they still unfortunately hold a lot of weight in Latvia. Reasons like we don't want to discriminate against men by having laws catered to protecting women, not to corrupt our children with the gay propaganda that would span from the convention's interpretation of gender, and not to allow the degradation of our sacred Latvian values, because this convention of course would lead to, down the line, legalization of same-sex marriage. The biggest nightmare of this all is that the Istanbul Convention literally advocates for none of those things and obliges the government to do none of those things. It is only there to protect women and to educate society about violence in the family, which I think we can agree is not something we want to preserve. But it seems that unfortunately those who oppose it so much in the parliament, this ideological instrument from the West, have simply not read the convention. Un nu viss. Thank you for watching this video. This topic has now gained a lot of momentum in Latvia, so I hope our society will use the opportunity and demand change, which is long overdue. And for this reason, I have also created this same video in Latvian. So if you are here to learn the language, you might want to go check it out and to hear some spoken Latvian. My goal is to break the silence and to encourage people to talk about this issue and to ask themselves, these values that they are vouching to protect, are they really my values? I encourage those of you who are expats in Latvia or also Latvians who live abroad to join in on this discussion. Because after all, it is the image that Latvia is portraying to the world. Do we really want to be that country that sacrifices literally women's lives just so that there wouldn't be the slightest possibility of according human rights to those who don't fit the narrow Latvian definition of normal? Do we want to be the country that says to tourist men, hey, you can come here and harass all the women you want, in private or in public, and there will be no punishment for it? Do we want to tell tourist girls, hey, you can get harassed here and nothing's gonna come of it? And if you don't want that, well, then don't provoke the manly men with the way you dress and act and where you go at night. In other words, neuzprasieties. Don't ask for it. Patreons. In the extra lesson, I discussed the Istanbul Convention's history in Latvia, where we are with it right now, what are the main arguments against it, and thank you for supporting the channel. And everybody, I really would love to hear your opinions on this, so leave a comment next to this video and I'll see you soon, maybe. Bye.